What's up, everyone? It's November 7th of 2025. Earlier today, President Donald Trump hosted a special guest at the White House, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán. Now, in order to become the president of any large developed nation, you got to be part of the club. And once you're part of the club, you are a set of numbers to the larger occult that is pulling the strings of the puppets on their stage in this massive play that's being played out on a world stage. Today, we'll investigate the numerology of Orbán's visit to the White House and how it connects to several themes. First off, we're going to look at how this date connects to John F. Kennedy, a president who is heavily numerically synced to Donald Trump, as we will discuss. Then we'll look at how today and this special meeting at the White House connects to Yale's Skull and Bones Society, which appears to be the driving force behind many mainstream news stories. Viktor Orbán is also the leader of the Fidesz party in Hungary. So we'll look at how this date connects to the establishment of the Fidesz, as well as the date that Orbán took it over. And then in the last part of this video, we'll take a look at how this all connects to the code of total solar eclipses, how today's date connects to the two great American eclipses, and also the two eclipses of 1919. And don't worry, this will make all the sense in the world once we cover it. Now, to get things started, I actually want to use the capital letters cipher. Here we use the current 26-letter alphabetic order, but add 26 for any capital letter in the phrase. This particularly applies to names. And you'll notice that Orbán's full name has gematria of 291 in this method. Well, it just so happens that this was the first number that jumped out to me when looking at the dates for today. Not only is President Trump 29,001 days old, but today's meeting was also 291 days after he was sworn back into office. Of course, Donald Trump is just one of two men to hold the office of the presidency on two different occasions. And this is quite similar to Viktor Orbán, who assumed office for the second time in the year 2010, as he had previously held the premiership in Hungary from 98 to 2002. But this number 291 also connects to the political party that Orbán belongs to, the Fidesz. Notice how when this party was established on the date March 30th, it was a span of 291 days after Donald Trump's birthday. In fact, if you look at the date that Victor became the head of that party, we find the digits 291 in the number of days old that Trump was, as well as the weeks. Like, yeah, there's an extra 7 in there, but it's the same digits, 291. Again, Viktor Orbán, the leader of the party since May 17th of 2003, over half of the party's existence. So this was obviously an important number, but next I want to look at how this connects to John F. Kennedy. And we start with the date that Orbán became the prime minister for the second time, May 29th. Now, May 29th also happens to be the birthday of John F. Kennedy, the last president to be assassinated. Died on November 22nd, which is the date written 11/22. Well, in the Latin or Agrippa's key method of Gematria, the cipher which I consider to be the most significant, notice how the prime minister's name, Viktor Orbán, equals 1122. So this means that when he became the prime minister, it was exactly 93 years after Kennedy was born. Using the most simple cipher, the alphabetic order, where every letter is numbered 1 through 26, Hungarian equals 93. And again, he leads the Fidesz party, which also equals 93. Today's meeting at the White House falls 3,233 weeks exactly after the assassination of Kennedy. Well, these three digits at the end, 233, that's the ordinal gematria of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. 233 is also the ordinal value of the number 1331. And this will be important later on, because as I've investigated in the past, 1331 is the ultimate eclipse number. Now, in Latin, when you write out the number 1331, you get a value of 1919. And these are the two eclipses we'll be looking at later, both from the year 1919. One of these was the longest annular eclipse in almost 300 years, whereas the other one was the longest total eclipse in, I believe, over 500 years. Now, this 1122, like the death date of JFK, the gematria of Viktor Orbán, this is also the Sumerian gematria of JFK assassination and Brotherhood of Death. Sumerian simply takes the alphabetic order and multiplies it by 6, the first perfect number. Now, the Brotherhood of Death, this brings us to the skull and bones riddle, which is heavily at play here. First, consider the gematria of Fidesz party, the political party in Hungary that Orbán leads. Using the reverse standard cipher, which is constructed similarly to Latin, but instead uses the current 26-letter alphabet flipped around, Fidesz party sums to the 322nd prime number. 322, the number on the skull and bones emblem. In fact, in ordinal, Fidesz party sums to 149, just like skull and bones. When Orbán became the prime minister on JFK's birthday, that was the 149th day of the year. And Orbán was born exactly 885 weeks after Donald Trump, as a tribute to the skull and crossbones, which equals 885 Latin. Also, skull and crossbones 322, or skull and bones 322. Both also with 885 gematria. Now, in the alphabetic order, this important phrase equals 223, which is perfect because it's 322 in reverse. The Hungarian government is based in Budapest, Hungary, which equals 223. And when you look at how old Orbán is today, 62 years, 23 weeks exactly, which has the 223. Also, measuring from the Fidesz party anniversary to today, you get a span of 223 days. Now, just to go and show you that this 223-322 combination is no mistake, Consider that Yale, the home of the Skull and Bones Society, turned 322 years old in 2023. And this is a date I discuss quite frequently. October 9th of 2023, this special anniversary. Well, today is exactly 760 days after that date. Both Skull and Bones, Secret Society, both 76. But there's another alignment with that measurement, because this is also 108 weeks and 5 days. 185 is the ordinal value of Donald John Trump. White House, with capital letters, is 185. And today he's hosting a Hungarian from the Fidesz party. Both of those equal 185 with capital letters as well. Furthermore, today is 185 days after the presidential date of Vladimir Putin. And Vladimir Putin is a big topic of today's meeting, as Hungary wants to use oil from Russia. JFK, by the way, was born 108 years and 5 months ago, to go along with this measurement up here. Shout out to Cody at Decoding with Cody for pointing out the gematria of this phrase, skull and bones ritual. Now, actually today, look at this. Today is 2 years and 30 days after this special skull and bones date that we just looked at. 2 years, 30 days, right? Well, skull and bones ritual equals 230. But we're also going to look at this number 982. Because yesterday, Donald Trump turned 982 lunar phases old. A lunar phase, also known as a synodic month, measures the time between new moons, and it's a little over 29 and a half days. Well, not only does skull and bones ritual equal 982, but President Donald Trump also 982. In standard gematria, Viktor Orbán equals 982. And if we instead use prime numbers, Vladimir Putin's full name also equals 982. And again, this is a skull and bones ritual, which also is 982. Now, today is also the 311th day of the year. Remember, the beast equals 311. So does John Fitzgerald Kennedy. In the reverse order, Prime Minister of Hungary equals 311. Hungary, using Fibonacci numbers, 311. Now, Prime Minister of Hungary and Hungarian both also equal 283, which are numbers connected to 666 and skull and bones ritual. And the number 666, very significant to the Brotherhood of Death. Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, this sums to 666. And it also has matching values with 603 score and 6, which in turn matches Putin's full name. So there's always a lot of 666 to unpack when you get to these skull and bones riddles. But for the last part of this video, I want to explain how today's date is specially aligned with the Eclipse code. Now, we start with the Brown lunation number. Now, for those of you who are new, every lunation since 1923 has been numbered. So currently we are in lunation 1272. There's been 1,272 new moons since January of 1923. Well, when you look at the founding date of the Fidesz party, we find that the Brown lunation number was 807 at the time. Well, if you measure from that date to the date that Viktor Orbán became the leader of the party, it was exactly 87 lunar phases later. And his full name equals 87 in the reduction or Pythagorean form of Gematria, which is, of course, another simple form where every double-digit number is reduced to a single digit. Also in Sumerian, Viktor Orbán equals 870. Now, when Viktor Orbán became the party's leader, it was during Brown lunation number 994. Well, 994 is the standard gematria of the phrase total solar eclipse. This phrase also equals 257 in reverse. And notice how this same duration, 87 lunar phases, this is also 2,570 days. Well, let's just bring this up for you so you can see yourself. From the date that the party was created to his second premiership. Well, actually, I'm sorry, to the date that he took the party over. Let's start with that. All right. Sorry to backtrack here. Sometimes when I go rogue like this, I forget exactly what I'm looking at. But okay, here we are. So here we see the 87 lunar phases. From party leader to prime minister. Well, this is also 2,570 days, or 7 years and 13 days. Well, 713 is total eclipse in standard, to go along with the total solar eclipse. But you may also remember the number 713 for another reason. Because on July 13th, or 713 last year, someone tried to make Trump the first assassinated president since JFK, when he was allegedly shot in the ear in Butler. Now, if you measure from the attempted assassination of Trump to today's meeting, it's been exactly 69 weeks. 69 is the ordinal value of Fidesz. And another thing I noticed is that a lot of headlines point out that Trump calls Orbán a strong man. Why is this word everywhere? Strong. Well, the word strong has the same 4 values as the Fidesz party. Strong 69, just like Fidesz 69. Trump meeting with the Fidesz leader exactly 69 weeks after being shot. 69, also the ordinal sum of eclipse. Eclipse of the sun, or eclipse the sun, both 69 as well. Now, after Trump was shot, his first public appearance was in the state of Wisconsin at the Republican National Convention. And it's interesting because Wisconsin was founded in the year 1848. And currently, Hungary celebrates its Independence Day based on the date of the Hungarian Revolution, March 15th, which was in the same year, 1848. But what really brings this link full circle is that Wisconsin was admitted on May 29th, which is the same date JFK was born and the same date Viktor Orbán took office. So perhaps we get a news story connected to Wisconsin this week that's related, not really sure. But I point this out because JFK was born exactly 69 years after Wisconsin's admission. And when JFK was born, it was during brown lunation, -69. .69 is the value of both pi and circles. Well, the first three digits of pi are 3.14. And Orbán took over the Fidesz party 31,400 days after Kennedy was born. And now today's meeting is 300 sidereal months and 14 days later. The word eclipse and circles both equal 314 in Satanic Gematria, which is one of my favorite ciphers constructed around the 666 beast code. So you ask, how does this all connect to the two great American eclipses? Well, today is exactly 19 months or 1 year, 17 months, or 7 months after the second great American eclipse. And this represents the number 1917, which is the year that JFK was born. Now, if you instead measure from the first eclipse to today, this 878 is found in the gematria of Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, which matches Putin's full name. Both of their names also equal 142. And the 142nd prime number is 821, which was the date of the first eclipse, August 21st. Today has been 8,210 days after Orbán took over the Fidesz party. So digging deep into the weeds here, but a simple way to understand it is this. The Fidesz party was founded on March 30th, or the date 330. Fidesz equals 33 in reduction, which matches both Kennedy and Eclipse. When you write out the number 33, it sums to 895, and he became the prime minister 8,095 days after the creation of the party, which was 8,895 days after Kennedy was killed. Another phrase that sums to 895 is ritual human sacrifice, which Kennedy certainly was. In fact, if you write out just ritual sacrifice, it equals 616, just like JFK. Now, when Donald Trump first began his presidential campaign, notice the date that it began, June 16th, or 616. Well, the 616th prime number is 4547. And now Donald Trump is the 45th and 47th president. In fact, when he took office for the second time, It was a span of 61 years and 60 days after JFK was killed. So this goes long beyond coincidence, as you may be able to tell. I have a few more things to note before I end this video. For one, I was supposed to mention at the top of the video that, the sun is an orb, which is a lot like this guy's name, Orbán, who is, of course, connected to the eclipse code of the sun and moon. So that's pretty interesting. But another thing I wanted to look at is the date his premiership began. It was exactly 1,116 months after JFK was born. It was also a span of 160 months and 11 days before Yale's 322nd anniversary. And of course, you have the same digits here, 11160. Don't forget 1611 is the year that the King James Bible was first published, the Masonic Bible. But if you instead look at today's date of his White House visit, it's been 61 years, 11 months, and 16 days since the JFK assassination. It's also been 1,191 days since a couple was killed by a lightning strike at the White House. And that may seem disconnected. Maybe it is. But the reason I bring that up is because there was this lightning strike at the White House on Obama's birthday. And the name Obama kind of reminds me of the name Orbán. Maybe it's a bit of a stretch. But I talked about this lightning strike at the White House and how it's connected to Obama, as the name Barack means lightning in Hebrew. And lightning strikes the tower in the tarot deck. I'll go ahead and link this post below when I'm done with this video on Obama and this lightning strike at the White House. It was a fascinating perfect number riddle for the former president. Also, another thing I thought of when I was looking at this is the name of this party, Fidesz, and that it's 37 years old. Well, there happens to be a comet called Fides 37, or 37 Fides. And I don't really know much about this. I know that this comet was connected to the Las Vegas shooting back in 2017. Here's another interesting thing. I pointed out that the Fidesz party has matching gematria with the word strong. Same 4 values in the base methods. Fidesz also equals 614 in Latin. And 614 is Trump's birthday. Also, President Donald J. Trump equals 614. But look at the word strong in gematria, summing to 367. So Orbán became Hungary's prime minister exactly 367 weeks after becoming the party's leader. So a little bit more about the eclipses. I talked about JFK being born on May 29th, dying on November 22nd. So May 29th was the date of the 1919 eclipse. The total eclipse, which was the longest total eclipse in over 500 years. And then later that same year, on November 22nd, the date of Kennedy's death, we had the longest annular eclipse in almost 300 years. And again, both of these eclipses in the year 1919, which is the Latin value of the ultimate eclipse number, 1,331. (1331) matching John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Both 233 in ordinal. Now, if you look at the date Trump took office this year, it was actually 1,331 lunations after Kennedy was born. So the 1331 eclipse code, this is another post I will link below, as this kind of does a deep dive onto why this number is representative of solar eclipses. And it all goes back to the year 1331, where the only total eclipse was on November 30th. And November 30th, the only date on the calendar with Latin Gematria of 1331. 1331 eclipse. 1331. So under every deep riddle, even just an innocent prime minister visit to the White House, we, as always, find deep connections to the code of solar and lunar events. And just as an aside, I often refer to these American eclipses as the skull and bones eclipses. And a big reason about this is because the eclipses are separated exactly by 82 lunar phases, whereas Yale turned 322 years old, exactly 82 sidereal months after the first eclipse. And when we think about this number 223, this is the number of lunar phases between eclipses of the same Saros series. So the Saros, a period of 223 synodic months, or lunar phases. So at any given time, there's anywhere from like 36 to 40 active Saros cycles. Each eclipse belongs to a particular Saros. So on Pi Day this year, we had a lunar eclipse belonging to Saros 123. And then we don't get another eclipse from that same series until the year 2043, which is exactly 223 lunar phases after the last one. So the Skull and Bones code isn't just relevant to a certain secret society, but actually the geometry of the Earth, Moon, Sun system itself. And yeah, just to touch on the chat, obviously, killing and shaming rituals are a big part of the numerology that the occult practices. But, your question was, besides those, what else do they do? And this video is a perfect example of that. I mean, nobody's dying in this event. There's no terror attack. There's no treaty being signed. It's just a guy going to the White House for a meeting. But it's the first time he's been there. And it'll probably be the last time. So, of course, this event will be set up by the numbers. And we know that there's obviously numerology is an organic element of our matrix as we've explored, but this is the type of thing where you can pretty much decisively say, no, they chose this date for a reason. Because this political party has always been synced to JFK. And now we find some cool alignments with JFK today. I mean, from the assassination to today's date matches his ordinal gematria. So just one of many examples of what they're all doing. Oh, and before I go, I had this queued up, so I better mention it. Kennedy died on the 44th anniversary of this important annular eclipse in the year 1919. 44 is the value of kill in ordinal. And JFK was the winner of the 44th presidential election. But just check out where that eclipse that he died on the anniversary of began. Kennedy was shot in Dallas, Texas, which is just a little bit north of where this eclipse started, which was also in the state of Texas. So again, just more evidence that the connections in our world run much deeper and much more fascinating than any of us truly know. All right, everyone, that'll do it for this video. Check the description for links for more information. If you'd like to support the work and the website that helps run my and many other researchers' work, feel free to check out the links below. Become a member of gematrinator.com, which supports my blog, my videos, and the website, again, that these servers operate on. More updates coming soon by the end of the month. Hopefully we'll have a newer style of application on the website that should help build more connections. Looking forward to making more announcements on that. Things got delayed a little bit with all the chaos that unfolded in my personal life this summer, but we're getting back on schedule. And again, news on that soon. So with that, peace, love, God bless. We'll talk to y'all next time. See ya.